Aloha. Today I wanted to do a video in reference to a quote and that I wrote down yesterday, and also a dream that I had yesterday. Just expand on it for a little bit and real quickly. But before I get there, I wanted to share first of all the idea of the quote that I wrote down and what it's referencing. I mention the New Age a lot because I'm not too concerned with what is obviously a jacked up scenario or experience. People are aware of that stuff, like the Illuminati and the New World Order and all that stuff. It's easy for people to point out the garbageness that's inherent within those systems, and it's easy to kind of see their moves because it's so obvious, and it's really only out there to get the people who are completely lost in the sauce, completely separated from any kind of empowered nature, to just buy into the fear program. That's basically what it is. The New Age Order, the Illuminati, all that stuff is to get people consumed into a particular thought process based upon the fear vibration and the fear mentality that allows you to create your foundations based upon fear. There's also another program that is running simultaneously that is being run by the same entities who mean to steal power and disempower the masses, which is being run by so-called love, so-called peace, and all this other stuff, and unity and oneness and all that. This destructive intelligence it's not a one-dimensional thought pattern or a one-dimensional thought frequency. It comes at it from every angle. So if they need to control people from fear, best believe they will also try to control or manipulate people with love and positive energies, so on and so forth. You can see this with the way commercials are used. Look at the commercials that were all used to sell you Christmas just recently. All the commercials to get you just to buy shit, basically just to get on Amazon, to get to Target and go buy some shit to represent love for your family members, for your friends, for your loved one, whatever it is. There's a middle something between you and that other individual, because we are basically empty. We are materialistic, so we need materials to fill the holes within our reality. This is why the New Age agenda is so based upon the alien agenda, the star system, and the aliens coming to do something for you. It's just another version of the pop culture religion, another version of another savior, the aliens. Instead of a blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus, there's a extraterrestrial Pleiadian Jesus that's coming to save you and make everything good. My point being is that everything is externalized. Everything is outside of you. We don't ever take the time to slow down and understand the maximum potentials of who and what we are as a spirit, having a relationship with this human vessel. We don't know the baseline essence of the golden capabilities of the human vessel, let alone what our spirit is able to experience. Even in our dreams, that's one example. People are completely separated from their dreams. And before we even get connected with ourselves and everything that we have a relationship with, we want to automatically connect with aliens and extraterrestrials and all this other stuff. That is a design to keep us separate from ourselves, from each other, keep us separate from understanding our history, keep us separate from understanding our origins, our present moment, and focus on the idea of a future, the pre-positioned, fabricated future that gets put out there by another control grid, by the same control grid with another system. So like this definition for the New Age says a broad movement characterized by alternative approaches to traditional Western culture. They're already telling you this is starting with the idea of Western culture and never going to the predating Western culture. It never goes to the origin, what predates Western culture and what predates the sick and diseased foundations that led up to the materialistic version of Western culture. What were the golden ages of humanity? What were they running with? What were they experiencing? Not saying that they were all perfect and all knowing and all that other stuff. I'm saying that our origins are a version of truth. And we have gotten so dumbed down and separated and so tired of having to deal with all of these heavy duty, dense ass experiences from us looking into our past as individuals and as a collective, that we have replaced truth with nostalgia. We have replaced origins with comfort zones. We've replaced our reality with television, a movie. We've replaced knowingness with belief systems. And instead of tapping into the knowingness, which is coming from a foundation of your origins, you have to convince yourself with belief systems, whether it be believing in what the Bible or the mainstream religion tells you to believe in, or whether it's a belief system of what the new Bible or the new age tells you to believe in, the aliens and so on and so forth. Constantly waiting on the future to save you. Your hope for the new age future is no different than a heavily consumed religious person waiting for a savior to come save them. What gets lost in that sauce? Your maximum potential, your relation to nature, your relationship to the Most High. You don't need a middleman between you and the Most High Spirit, being that you are a manifestation of the Most High Spirit, being that you are a spirit before you are the body. So if you are a spirit inhabiting a body, then first of all, what is the spirit? What is that relationship? And what is the human body? Baseline. Like, not having to deal with all the rotten systems that are downloaded. Like, when you're born here with a clean slate. You have work to do in relation to this experience as a whole. But a lot of the systems that babies are experiencing on up through adolescence to adulthood and so on and so forth are a side effect to the systems that are downloaded by the previous generations before them, their parents and their grandparents and so on and so forth. Nowadays, people aren't telling their kids to go to the public education system. They're not telling their kids to believe everything that the system has told them to believe in before, because they are starting to realize the implications of the supremacy program, the racism. Like, babies aren't born racist. Babies aren't born with all of this shit that's a side effect of the materialistic program. They adopt that reality based upon their surroundings, their peers, their family members, and so on and so forth. And then adjust their reality to be comfortable within the zone that they have been placed in upon birth. And then when you get comfortable in that space, it's the same relationship that you have with your dreams. When around 5 to 8 years old, kids start losing their dreams, is because they're starting to go to kindergarten. They're starting to understand their physical reality a lot more and starting to separate themselves from their dreams, from their spirit, and lose those connections. So that version of reality in your older version of yourself is like the new age. As long as you keep believing in aliens and the heliocentric model. That's basically what the secret space program and the alien agenda is all about. It's about the heliocentric model. It's about maintaining, adding time to the system as it was created. Now, whether these individuals do it knowingly or unknowingly, this is what's happening. You're not tapping into the origins of who and what you are from a natural space. In fact, you're demonizing it. This is what the Ancient Aliens program is about. Demonizing the indigenous people because they still believe in the monkey model evolution theory. They still believe that, well, if we're the smartest monkeys of today, that means the smartest monkeys of yesterday must have been dumber than us. So it wasn't that they built the pyramids. It wasn't that they did golden civilizations. They must have been run by, aliens. Aliens must have been telling them everything. And that coincidentally plays right into the secret space program, the alien agenda, Area 51, and the government still maintaining power and control over you through disclosure and classified information and so on and so forth. And what's the trend here? What's the trend when you go into the New Age community? What's the trend when you're watching Ancient Aliens? What's the trend when you watch Hollywood and the Oscars? What's the trend in your Billboard Top 100? What's the trend in MTV? And what's the trend of this Western culture and civilization? What's the trend in all of these so-called extraterrestrials pictures that you have? This is a mind control program. David Bowie mentioned it about MTV back in the day in 1983 when he realized that there's only white people on MTV. This is not a mistake. This is an intention. Your bushy-haired white Santa Claus and white God and blonde-haired blue-eyed Jesus is not a coincidence. It's a mind control program that goes into the streets, the very nature of the streets. This is why you have so much violence in the streets in the so-called inner cities. Because inherently, we have no connections with spirit because you have the pop culture religions that aren't organic at all, so you can't connect with them. And you still have generations, like you still have grandparents who are still heavily, and parents still heavily locked into the church, heavily worshiping this blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus, the darkest people on the earth plane right now, still worshiping, waiting for that type of Jesus to come down. It's not just a thing to be overlooked. And the quote that I'm going to share with you, that before I get to the dream that I wrote down yesterday, it's just a basic, it says the new age is to spirit and spirituality like what Elvis was to rock and roll and MTV to music. The same effect happens. Just like the same effect that your depictions of Jesus are, so that what effect they have on the masses of melanated people and indigenous and aboriginal people. It's a psychological effect that is a manifestation of your relationship to spirit. And if you understand that the psychological effects manifested from a spiritual effect can manifest into people killing each other on the streets, that's how it goes all the way down to, it goes from the soul to the mind to the body. This is all on purpose. There's no degrees of separation between these designs. This is all a way to keep people at a particular vibration. This is about density, which will lead into the dream that I'm getting ready to tell you in a second, that really hit me pretty hard, because it was all about my focus, and it was something that it caught me by complete surprise. I haven't been really surprised in a dream to where I was knocked into lucidity in a dream because I was surprised with focus. So yeah, like what else I wrote down? Like the mainstream religions, Christmas, have the same foundations of the statement "Make America Great Again." So the limitation foundations of "Make America Great Again" is known. What does Trump think was great about America? When was America ever great? Anytime you go into the history of so-called America, which is only really the United States when they're referencing it like that, you're going into genocide, massacres, slavery, destruction. The only thing that people understand is great. I had a commenter leave just a couple of days ago. Leave a comment talking about, I should be grateful. There should be gratitude that should be shared about what this country has done for civilization and so on and whatever. Yeah, ridiculous. A bit of gratitude, maybe? That was what this person said. So ridiculous. But that's how far, that's the mentality. That mentality is actually the president-elect mentality of today. Only on Front Street, though, because this is not a mistake that things are going the way they're going. People know what's up. So anyway, this is all to keep you away from your history, from your origins. Just imagine how different everything would be if we weren't manipulated like we are today. See, the only reason why the New Age community can be as vibrant and as activated as it is in the consciousness of people is if people have been completely separated from their origins. And the people all across the board, if you have people who have no foundations in any kind of love and connecting vibrations at all, then and they are escaping largely from a fear mentality, then it's easy to lock people in to any kind of positive vibrations. And this is known by the so-called powers that be. So that's just as much as the fear mentality is played, the loving mentality is played. Just imagine how different everything would be if people weren't demonized. If we weren't lied to on a regular basis to tell a particular story. Muddy Waters wrote it in a song perfectly when he said the blues had a baby and they named it rock and roll. The blues had a baby and they named it rock and roll. Like this quote I was saying, Elvis was to rock and roll like MTV was to music. They kinged him, that man. A thief. Because he was a face. Because of what he looked like. Not the essence of what music actually is. Just imagine if people didn't have to deal with this shit. If this wasn't at all a thing. Pop culture isn't for your benefit of entertainment. Pop culture is to mind control you and your future generations. Just imagine if that shit never existed. That's the thing we can't even understand yet. We can't allow ourselves to even get into that mentality because we're so used to it. We're so used to being dominated. We're so used to being lied to. We're so used to being enslaved that we just say, okay, things are just going to be the way they are, based upon the way the system tells us to be. So we go along with whatever is hip, popular, and trendy. This is the essence of the new age. And people are going to be so fucking happy about that when that kicks into gear. More so because we've been locked into a low vibrating fear vibration forever. If they can't control you anymore with war and destruction, they will try to connect you or control you with fear and so-called peace, or love and so-called peace. So this is the pop version of raising consciousness, the pop version of shifting of realities, because you have the organic nature of consciousness adjusting and shifting and growing and expanding within the individual and their connections and understandings to the origins of who and what we are, nature itself, the most high connections in spirit outside of this mind control program. That's happening organically. But in order to get the people who are still locked in to that dominating essence to where they need, that's basically what the animalistic behavior essence is, coming from the monkey mind evolution program. It's to create a mentality of dominance and being okay with that. So if that's installed in generations upon generations upon generations to make a dense mentality, a dense vibration in humanity who is ultimately existing more so in the non-dense frequency as your spirit, as the soul. When you lock those individuals into a frequency of density, then you can be controlled. You're in that animalistic. It's literally de-evolving people. So when you disconnect people from their origins, you are de-evolving them because they have no soil to get nutrients from. They have no foundation. They have no roots. So they won't grow. If they grow, it'll be because of this miracle grow, genetically modified soil that is the pop culture religion, that is the pop culture entertainment, that is the pop culture art, that is the pop culture so-called innovation, which is technology and transhumanism. This is this miracle grow human experience that's being manipulated by the idea of the new age, the idea of the secret space program, the idea of ancient aliens, the idea of the university system and the scientism community. To keep you, this is what the heliocentric model does when it keeps you uprooted from understanding the natural harmonics of the earth plane realm. You are a spirit in a realm. You are not a fucking body on a ball. This is what the essence of the heliocentric model is. To make you think that you're just a body that came from a big bang to the dinosaurs, to monkeys, to you, and gravity holds it all together. Gravity is your God in this heliocentric model on this ball. You have no understanding of what a realm is, of what density is. There's no understanding of frequency and vibration and energies that materialize into a particular density, into a particular dimension. There's no understanding there because we are totally bombarded by the mind control program of the scientism university community and the deception that's inherent within being completely uprooted from your basic understandings of nature and spirit as a whole. Every single outlet, we consume our reality by what this false reality tells us is supposed to be focused on. And when we focus on that energy, we're not focusing on the energy of who and what we are inherently. So we actually manifest a world that's based upon the illusion, the deception, and control models, next layer control models that are based upon this deception in the first place. This is why we are bombarded by so many news outlets and art, so-called art, pop art culture, and the education system, and so on and so forth. Stealing time, stealing focus, stealing energy. Excuse me. And if they can control your focus, they can control that's controlling your present moment, which is controlling your future creations. And you can only control an individual's present moment and future creations if they have no connection with their origins, their nature, their history, and everything that leads up to today. This is what the essence of the ancient aliens mentality is. This is what the essence of the mainstream religions, the blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus, the Santa Claus programming, and so on and so forth. There's no understanding of the principles of the energies of it. This is why they demonized ancient Egypt, saying, oh, well, they had 1 million gods. They were just primitive and savage. They were just so wrong. There's only one God, and it's Jesus. It's completely misunderstanding the essence of those gods. Just represented the principles that exist inherently within God nature. So when you had Jehudi or Thoth representing the knowledge, the knowledge of God, and then you had the warrior spirits, then you have all of these archetypes, principles of nature, principles of God nature that you can strive to be, that will add to the expansion of consciousness. This is the essence of what the Cometians were really tapping into when they were talking about this. But when you need to sell something new, you have to demonize that which was old and bring up that which is new. So he said, well, all that stuff is just poppycock. It's just you're just playing with toys. This is about one person, and his name was Jesus, and all this other stuff, and so on and so forth. Never going into any of the other stories, telling everything backwards and upside down. And it's all really just to create an imbalance and a separation from a distraction from you really going into your origins and questioning your reality from an empowered state of being, from a perspective of knowingness rather than belief. This belief shit with ancient aliens, that's why they're always talking about theories. Ancient astronaut theorists profess. Just look at everything that they say. Everything in there is a theory. When they have the potential to really share information, deep information about the Mayans, the Inca, the Cometians, and their connections outside of that. And people say, oh, well, they do share that. No, they share that from a perspective that only builds up the perspectives they want to share with you. They only use the indigenous perspectives from that style of perspective to build themselves up. They're actually demonizing the indigenous and aboriginal people because they only give a shit about making you believe in the alien mentality. So, what this all boils down to, that's pretty much all I wanted to share with that quote, which was the deception of, the inherent deception of the New Age and how it relates to stuff like Make America Great Again, pop culture, and pop this and pop that. Like the king of pop, like they named Elvis the king of rock and roll, the essence of that style of music. Completely, which separates it from blues, the origin of rock and roll. And then you now have a new blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus. So the blues, that was the mother and father of rock and roll, could be seen as like ancient Kemet, and the new mainstream pop version of the baby of the blues, like Muddy Waters said, rock and roll is now your blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus. And then they just sold that through MTV. They sold it. They made sure that you only paid attention to a particular version of rock and roll. And then when Michael Jackson hit the scene and he just blew the lid off of everything and started doing his own thing, then they had to say, well, we can't beat this man. We can't, so we have to adopt him. So what did they do? They named him the king of pop. Look at what pop is today. Look at Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift and Mandy Moore and Britney Spears and all these others pop, like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and all that shit. That's pop shit. When you really listen to Michael Jackson, do you think of that shit? No. So why was he named the king of pop? Because they needed to own him. They needed to take that power and install it in to add credibility to the system itself. To add credibility to the system that originally had no interest in any kind of connection. No interest in telling the story from a balanced perspective at all. They just wanted to mind control you from the get-go. David Bowie mentioned it back then. Michael Jackson was talking about his whole life. Even Prince was talking about it the same way. It's why he stayed on his own. It ain't no different than the new age pop. The new age is just pop Jesus. It's the new version of the Bible. It's just instead of, all the books in the Bible, it's just star systems in the sky of the heliocentric model. And then you have these so-called prophets who are releasing secret space program information so that Jesus Pleiadian can come down and save everything and make everybody one and oneness and all this other stuff. Anyway, all of it boils down to density. The more separated you are from your spirit and soul, the more dense you are. The more separated from spirit and your soul, the more dense you are. And the dream that I had the other day, it's going to be quick, I'll end it on this. I was actually in my first house as a kid. This was on Christmas Day, yesterday, that I had this dream. I was in my first house looking at a bookshelf full of because we had two bookshelves in the house. We had the kids' bookshelf, which was just my bookshelf for the first 6 years of my life, until my little brother and sister came along. But we had a kids' bookshelf, and this was when we were in there. We had a kids' bookshelf and the parents' bookshelf. And I was looking through the kids' bookshelf for the Muppet book. And I had the Muppet book. I looked through it for a second, but I remembered there was another Muppet book. And it was my favorite Muppet book because I looked through it a lot. I remember the cover was all messed up, and I didn't look through the other Muppet book too much because it was, I don't know, it was cool, but the other one was just different. Anyway. So I found the old Muppet book. I opened it up, and when I opened it up to the first page, the title page, the title of the book was, it actually said, The Diamond Dimension. And in that dream, everything kind of shifted. I instantly became aware of the dream. I was shocked back into my, like, a large part of my conscious reality was focused in that subconscious realm from that shock, because I needed to understand, need to interpret what this was. I didn't automatically know what that meant from that state, because the dream me was actually the kid me. So I was consumed by the kid me mentality, thinking I'm going to look at some Muppet book. But I was actually shocked into my conscious reality of this moment, this conscious moment in that dream. And I said, oh, I got to tell somebody about this. So there was a friend of mine in the house, and she was putting her stuff in, like, the storage area. And I said, come over here, you got to look at this. Come over real quick. And as we were walking to the book, I was going to tell her, look at the name of this book. And then in that exchange of information, that's when I woke up. But later on that day, I actually went for a walk up to I went for a walk, and on that walk out in nature, and while I was out there, I was thinking about the diamond dimension, and what really I was just letting it sit in my world to see what comes about. And that's when I realized that the dimensions that we exist in and as are not so much about numbers, first, second, third, and fourth dimension. I was realizing that it was actually more so about the metaphysical properties of density. So you can understand, like, crystals, crystalline structures, crystalline densities are actually more about what we are as, what we are manifested as, and our focus is within. And it makes sense when relating to focus creating our reality, the energy of focus creating our reality, and taking the so-called quantifiable, the numbers. It's a simple version. It's too simple to just call something the first, second, and third dimension, fourth and fifth dimension. It's actually it has more depth and more there's more to it when you understand density or dimensions from a density perspective. It's easier to see how the programs of the manipulation of your psyche and your genetically modifying your body, and how that affects your psyche. So it works down and up. If you have a weak body, then your focus is going to be focused on your weak body. Like people who are overweight can be depressed a lot, or whatever it is, have any kind of physical problems. They see them as problems, can manifest into, like, depression. That's a psychological effect on your reality. So it works downwards and up. Like, as soon as if you've been manipulated to think and act a certain way from your soul to your mind to your body, once it gets to your body, then it works all the way back up. Your body starts to affect your mind, and then your mind starts to affect a deeper layer of your soul. So it's this circle, downward spiral, that is mostly about densifying your reality and creating an external relationship, the illusion of an external relationship to this reality as a whole. So it's about density, the psychology that's manipulated through pop culture, through mainstream religion, through pop science, which is scientism, through the illusions of the heliocentric model, separating you from nature, separating you from your culture and each other, separating you from your family, your children, separating you from just being comfortable in your reality, which is what the fiat currency system does. Separating you on every single essence, especially when you go into, like, the straw man stuff, the legal name, having your birth certificate locked into a vault. That's a spiritual program there. And none of this stuff is being addressed. None of this stuff is being recognized at all. Because the system itself, the system of distraction itself, is so thick. The density of the distraction, the illusion program, is so thick that we have adopted that thickness into our reality, and then we densify our reality. So we're actually like, if you're born into the third dimension on like a clear slate, then you're actually, the more you adopt into the illusory reality, you're buying into like a 2.9, 2.8, 2.7, 2.6 dimension reality once you start getting into the animalistic behaviors, the animalistic dominance factors of your reality. You start to downgrade, de-evolve yourself, which is only happening on the etheric modes of reality, because you're always expanding. No matter how much you're diving yourself into the illusion, you are still learning on your soul level in some kind of way. You're still having an experience. But in the meantime, you are creating gaps in your reality for these disembodied entities who mean to serve themselves at the expense of your separation. The intention of this program of politics, the intention of the New Age, the intention of mainstream pop and art and music and mainstream everything, the intention of the density program as a whole, to separate you from your spirit and your soul. The more dense you are, the less connected consciously to your soul and your spirit that you are. And if you want to see it from an interdimensional perspective, how I'm relating it to that dream that I had, which was just it's dreams like those that really get me. They really just like, it's like, hey, pay attention to this. It's like, you need to see this and you need to remember this. It was one of those dreams, because I was focusing. I was looking for that book. I was looking for it. And when I found it, I opened it, and it was in really nice, old school kind of writing. It was an old book, and it said right there, the was little, and it had diamond in large letters and dimension. And I just shocked the shit out of me. I was just like, whoa. But yeah, it just helped me really see this reality basing from a density perspective, and how to lighten up truly. See, the new age idea is not about lightening up. It's an escape mechanism. It's a way to escape. And when you're escaping, you can't escape. You take whatever density with you as you're escaping, and you just create another version, another movie to watch while you are convincing yourself that you're something new, something different. No, you still have that weight. You're still carrying that density around. You just decided to watch another movie. Instead of watching the Illuminati movie, instead of watching, like in my perspective, when I went through that process, instead of watching the Occupy protest movie and having that be the focus of my reality, I started to watch the New Age movie. And then once I started to realize how that was just another escape mechanism, the way it's being manipulated, not talking about the information itself, but the way it's created to keep you from going any deeper than that, so you can create that as your new foundation. It's just another escape mechanism. And if you don't get the essence of that relationship from the root structure that predates what is understood as new, if you don't go any further than that, which is letting go of your so-called new self, if you don't let go of that, then you'll be trapped within that new world. And it's easy to get trapped in a new world of love and compassion and empathy and star-seatedness and the Pleiadians and everything so beautiful when we have disclosure, when the government actually fesses up and tells us that aliens are real. Why the fuck do you need the approval from those assholes who never give a fuck about you in the first place? Because you don't. Everything that you are and that you have is within you already. It's already there, and it's been in the people before, in your previous generations. Outside of this evolution theory, these are these two simultaneous timelines that are going on right now, at least from one observation purpose. You have the illusory timeline, where you have the consciousness of humanity that is anchored itself in the monkey evolution university scientism program. That's running right now. That's an actual timeline of consciousness in this experience that people are thinking like. That's like the Biff Tannen timeline of Back to the Future Part 2. When they went when they went into that alternate timeline, that's the monkey evolution timeline that's running simultaneously to the soul essence timeline that will forever be running, that exists within the origins, the connections to your ancestors, nature, so on and so forth. And people are starting to realizing and let it go. The new age mentality, transhumanism, technology, simulation theory, SpaceX, Elon Musk, the heliocentric model, all that shit exists. All that racism and all that shit, the MTV version of reality, blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus, all that shit exists in the timeline of Biff Tannen. That's the Biff Tannen timeline reality. And if you're still holding on to shit in that timeline, only because it's easy, only because it's normal, like I said earlier, we have to choose between nostalgia and truth. Which is more important, nostalgia or truth? Because nostalgia, you can feel good about something based upon the Biff Tannen timeline. Listen, when I talk about Christmas and all that other stuff, I loved waking up, being the first to wake up at Christmas when I was a kid, and then going to wake up my little brother and sister. Like, hey, get up, it's Christmas, and run downstairs. I loved that shit. There's nothing wrong with that inherently from the people who are experiencing that reality. What I'm saying is that there's a deeper layer of root systems and connections that you can have that still will have a deeper version of that same feeling that you would have in the other timeline. Is that we won't know what that is until we let go of the nostalgia, the Biff Tannen timeline. We won't know what the feeling of, hey, it's Christmas, get up, run downstairs, we gotta get this presents. You're like waking everybody up, it's Christmas. Like, what would that feel like in the timeline that exists, that is rooted in your soul essence? That's what I'm looking forward to. That's largely why I say, that's why I make these videos, is because I know that exists. Because I've experienced it in spurts here and there from different versions of reality and experience, relationships and so on and so forth. And just realizations on my own journey. I know what that feels like in some kind of way. So I know that if I can experience that as an individual, that other people can experience that as individuals and as a collective. But what would that be? We won't know what that would be until we start to let go. And completely let go of this illusory density reality that is manipulated by these programs. And it's only meaning to expand itself. So that's basically it. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.